time for the main event that I think most of you are here for. So if the 4 candidates for Hermosa Beach City Council can make their way to the stage, we will get started in a minute. But in the meantime, for all of you standing, there are several empty seats here, so if you guys would like to find a seat, please feel free. But yes, yep. All right, everyone ready? Okay, so full transparency, since none of you know me, I do not live in Hermosa. I do not know any of these people or any of the issues, so I am probably the most unbiased and clueless person here, which is why they asked me. Here's the rules for tonight. I will be asking the candidates the same questions, and we will rotate the order in which they answer them. The questions were provided by you, the members of the Beach City Democrats, and there will be limited time to respond. We have Paul, our lovely timekeeper here. I will tell you how long you have to answer each question, and he will give you a 30-second warning. So just keep an eye for him. We are asking you to be respectful and factual. We will not be fact-checking any of the information. However, if you feel that something about you has been misrepresented by another candidate, please raise your hand and we will give you 30 seconds to respond or clear that up however you feel. And then you will be allowed 1 minute at the end for closing statements. And just to everyone out there, please know if your concern is not addressed tonight because we do have limited time and endless issues, you can always ask the candidates individually. These are people asking to be your elected officials, so feel free to approach them and ask them about things that are important to you, and you should do that all the time. So that's my little PSA. So we are going to start. You will have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. Include what inspired you to run for office, what makes you a better candidate, whatever you have to say. But fortunately, we have one microphone, so we'll be passing it around. But we're going to start with Maggie, then Dean, then Eric, then Raymond. So
say 1 minute or
2 minutes to introduce yourself. Yeah, so if you guys want to pass this down. Yeah, go ahead. 2 minutes. Here we go.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. My name is Maggie Bove-LaMonica, and I'm running for Hermosa Beach City Council. I want to tell you a little bit about me, about my priorities, and my why. And let me start off by saying that Hermosa isn't just where I live, it's really who I am. I was born and raised on 30th Street, and I've lived every season of my life in this town. I was a surf kid, I played college soccer, I was the young teacher doing happy hours on Pier Avenue, and now I'm raising my 3 kids alongside my husband John while watching my mom not retire. We're facing a critical moment here in Hermosa Beach. Decisions made now, last night, today, will impact the future generations. Our pier was flagged this past year in critical condition. The space, the city yard responsible for making our sewers flow, our streets run, and our sandbags filled is in dire shape. The council is split on how to raise revenues for this upcoming year, and there are no new suggestions for overcoming a structural deficit that is expected to grow to $7 million over the next 4 years. Hermosa residents deserve experienced, responsible, pragmatic city council leadership. As a 13-year school board trustee, an attorney, a policymaker, I bring a proven track record of leadership and turning no into yeses. When I first joined the school board, our district faced severe financial distress and outdated facilities. Perhaps that sounds familiar. Together, we completely turned the tide by securing $87 million in voter-approved bonds. I was proud to lead on those issues, and we built robust financial reserves and avoided a single teacher layoff. I'm running for city council to take those same experiences and leadership there. We want to fix the budget before it's a crisis, bring common sense government and reduce the chaos, and make sure that we're protecting people, places, and businesses that make Hermosa better. I look forward to carrying the proud legacy of Hermosans who came before us, who built this town. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Dean Francois. I was inspired to run for city council when I saw the terrible effects that were happening on the Capitol, Trump-led protesters and all that. I actually worked down there on Capitol Hill as an intern for Tip O'Neill. I go way back, Speaker of the House of Representatives. So I'm running not to lose this seat. This is a solid seat. and I'm a solid Democrat, and a Democrat for a half a century. Former president of this club in the 90s, and I have fought continually for the working class people. The democratic values are important here. When it comes to parking restrictions, I made sure that they were not going to affect the residents. And there were drastic measures made. We got them overturned and turned back in a more logical way, because the working people is what counts in this town. So, you know, safety, public safety, parking. I've restored governance to our city council. Our meetings now run smoother and have less controversy and turmoil, and we've brought that in the last 4 years on this council. I have pushed for affordable housing. We worked on a housing plan, making it passed by the state for more affordable housing, working with the residents, getting the realtors together, and really rolling up our sleeves and working with everyone on the city council. I work across the aisle with all parties, with all people. I talk to everyone on the council. That's the way we get things done. That's how we'll solve our financial crisis. There's a lot of good revenue ways that we can do this, and it only takes council members that talk to everyone. So those are the things, and the environment. I've been an environmental activist my whole life, and you know, things have been approved like closed off VIP areas at beach events. I've opposed those. I worked with Council Member DeToy, the other Democrat on the council, to keep storm runoff our parking and keeping parking free in the morning. So I appreciate and thank you for your vote and support. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Raymond Jackson. I am running for the third time to be Hermosa Beach's council member. I am a first-generation American, a recipient of birthright citizenship. For the first time in my life, I questioned my citizenship because I didn't know what my parents' status was when they moved here in the early 60s. I was like, well, maybe I may be deported, who knows? There were a lot of crazy things going on at the time. So, proud American, born in Philadelphia, lived in New Jersey, 30-year military veteran, entered the Army as a private in 1980, the height of the Cold War, some of you remember that. And I was literally scrubbing toilets as a private, and I was fortunate enough to get promoted all the way up to the rank of colonel, serving in the Pentagon and Capitol Hill. Moved to Hermosa Beach in 2014 with my family. My wife Rachel, who's in the back, she's the rock star in the family for anybody who really knows us. And my 1 year off has turned into, much to her chagrin, 11 years of unfunded work. I'm a public servant. I've been a public servant my whole life. 30 years in the military, many years before then when I was an undergrad and grad school, and then the 11 years that we've lived here. I have worked tirelessly for this great city of Hermosa Beach. I've been fortunate enough to be elected to regional leadership positions as well as a state position. I was appointed by the Senate Pro Tem to the California Coastal Commission. So I represent LA and Orange County and 13 million people at the California Coastal Commission, a position I'm very proud to represent you at the state level. It's a big deal for Hermosa Beach and the South Bay. It's been an absolute honor to represent our city, and I look forward to explaining a little more about me and where I stand on many of these important issues. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Eric Horn. Most of you probably know me already because I serve as the Vice President of the Beach Cities Democrats. But tonight, I appear before you as a candidate in my own right for Hermosa Beach City Council. I am running for City Council because I want to make local government work better for you, residents and business owners. I want to protect what makes this town special, and I know what makes this town special because I grew up here. This is my hometown. I went to our public schools from Hermosa Valley all the way up to El Camino before embarking on a career in public service. I began in the Peace Corps before taking a role in the Biden administration, working at the FDA and partnering with Congress on oversight over $1 billion in drug safety and infrastructure spending. I then went back to school to get my MBA at Harvard Business School, and I moved back to Hermosa Beach shortly thereafter. Since moving back, I've taken a role as the California Director of Mega Fire Action, where we are leading state and federal wildfire mitigation reforms, including passing a historic law out of the legislature today that is going to the governor's desk and is led by Senator Van Allen. After moving back here to Hermosa, I got interested in what's going on in City Council. Let's try attending a meeting. And I was struck by two things. Number one, there were major decisions that were being made that the public was just unaware of. And so I started doing these social media videos, recaps and previews of the City Council meetings to inform the public. I was also struck by the unprofessionalism, the lack of preparation, and the inability of this council to forge coalitions to move the city's business forward on our fiscal deficit, on our pier, on making sure that our neighborhoods aren't taken over by Airbnbs. And I think you deserve better. This town deserves better. And because I grew up here and because I've been working on solving some of the most complicated problems in government, I think that I can serve you better. The mayor of Hermosa Beach, Mike DeToy, agrees. I'm endorsed by many other local leaders, and I look forward to earning your support. Thank you.
All right, and just for your own information, there are currently 3 open seats and 6 people running. So keep that in mind as you listen to the answers. All right, here's the first question, and you will have 2 minutes to each of you to answer the question. So last night there was a city council meeting, and the city council voted to allow short-term vacation rentals in the coastal zone. In a 3-2 decision, the majority voted to allow a permanent program with no operating limits. After 6 months, the council will evaluate whether changes are needed. The minority wanted an interim program and to simultaneously began a community engagement process to tailor operating restrictions for a permanent program. My question to y'all is, which approach do you think is a better option for Hermosa and why? And if you are elected, what additional actions, if any, would you take on this topic? So you guys will each have 2 minutes. Once again, Paul is our timer, and we will give you the first, and then just pass it on down.
Thank you for the question. This is one of the biggest issues facing our town right now. What makes Hermosa special is that this is a small town in a big city. We know our neighbors here. Growing up here, it was a dream to be able to walk down the streets and be able to see friends, and knock on doors, to go and play in the parks, and now as a candidate to be able to knock on doors and see the parents, the grandparents of kids that I grew up with here. Short-term vacation rentals, if left unchecked, threaten that community fabric. They will replace long-term residents, long-term renters, with people that don't have that same vested interest in our community. And look, we lost a lawsuit overturning our ban on short-term rentals in the coastal zone. That's not a council decision. We lost the lawsuit. But the council last night had a clear choice. Should we proceed with correcting our ordinance to comply with the court order to legalize short-term rentals in the vacation in the coastal zone, and proceed with developing a regulatory program that would impose density limits, protections for long-term renters so that they're not turned out en masse to make way for more density of short-term rentals, and a number of other important restrictions that would guarantee that we are able to still have the close community feel that we enjoy here in Hermosa Beach. I think that the council made the wrong decision. I spoke about it last night. We need to start getting our act together on proactive leadership. We can't wait 6 months to start developing a regulatory program on an issue that we know is going to impact our community now. We need to start being more proactive on these problems. This is a big one. It doesn't mean that we won't have any short-term vacation rentals. We are in a fiscal crisis as well. We need revenue. This is a potentially appealing source of revenue. I believe that we should do a dedicated short-term rental surcharge tax to further discourage additional conversions on the margins and generate additional revenue for investments like the pier. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And short-term rentals and parking, those are two things that get people fired up, especially in the beach cities. It's something I've dealt with since my first time in 21 on council, something I did work with on a monthly basis at our coastal commission meetings. And last night we got to witness what happens when you get 3 votes on a Tuesday. When elected officials stop listening to the people they're supposed to serve and put profit over people. That's exactly what we saw. We had my colleague to the far right who cast the deciding vote alongside two colleagues who had been asked to recuse themselves because of potential conflicts of interest. The city council majority shoved open the door to unlimited, and let me say that again, unlimited short-term rentals throughout Hermosa Beach's Gulf Zone. No guardrails, none. No cap on the number, no cap on the concentration, no meaningful parking requirements, no primary residency, no serious protection for residents. I was elected by the people to serve the people. We are here to protect the residents in this community, and what happened last night, I think, was a travesty. This puts tenants at risk. There's nothing to keep an apartment owner from kicking out those tenants who live in there and converting that entire apartment complex to short-term rentals. There's no limit on that. It's unfathomable. There was no need to do it. There was no need to jam it down the throats. There was no community outreach. Most people in the city have no idea what happened. It was agendized on a Thursday. We spent more time talking about a dog park in this city than we did on short-term rentals last night. And that's a problem. And since I have a couple, am I stopped yet?
5 seconds.
5 seconds.
We like dogs.
We do like dogs, but we love people and we need to protect the residencies for people.
Just timing myself. Thanks for the question. It was disappointing how few people were at last night's council meeting, and that speaks to the process that the city council did not engage in. I pride myself on doing community engagement, being really transparent, and being very principled in my values. What we saw last night was an overnight decision done without any engagement and did not rest in any data. It was a lot of feelings that were happening up on the council, and they chose not to ask for more information in order to make a qualified decision on what was going to happen. What we do know is that they gave up over 4% of our housing stock in the coastal zone to unregulated access. We have a housing crisis across California. We have a housing element that is due in 18 months, and the council considered none of these issues. They felt like it was okay to try things out without any information to rest their causes. We have a structural deficit, and the budget needs new revenue sources. It is okay to profit off of our tourist dollars that come here. We get over 1 million people a year who come to Hermosa Beach. We love that they love us and our lifestyle. That is a great thing. Short-term rentals have a place in our housing mix. They have a place in our tourist budget. But this council, specifically Dean, Rob, Michael Keegan, and candidate Elka, chose option 1 last night, and that put profits over people. They put noise over neighbors. There are no protections in place to help us when you are up at night listening to folks. So I'm incredibly disappointed in this council. I am running because we deserve better. We deserve people who take the time to read the agenda. We deserve people who want to engage with their community. And we deserve people who are very transparent about their ethics. Thank you.
Well, this is an example of candidates grandstanding and a bunch of one-liners to try to bring out what is not the truth about this. Now go ahead and take a look. Item 16A on the agenda last night. You go ahead and watch the tape. There wasn't much difference between option 1 and option 2. What happened was I developed a compromise between going with option 1 and option 2, and I think it was a great compromise. What it was the first option was to enact an ordinance, which we needed to do. We were under Coastal Commission guidelines to implement this. Otherwise, they are operating illegal in our city. We had to do it. The other option was to still come up with an interim ordinance, which would have done the same thing. It just would have gone in immediately and figured out how to tweak it. All we did was move it to 6 months instead of a year. After 6 months, we can certainly tweak this thing. We can make, I'd love to make restrictions about, unlimited conversions and massive blocks being brought up by developers and all that. We can do that. We'll do that. But we had to implement something because we were operating illegal. Now, if you take a look what happened in Manhattan Beach, that didn't happen there. They switched it over years ago, immediately to unrestricted short. They didn't have suddenly this massive housing stock go away and massive developers come in, and it just didn't happen, folks. So we'll take a look at that in 6 months and see how it goes, and we'll be able to tweak it. And this is just an example of how I can work both sides of the aisle. I can work with people. I can talk to all council members and everyone and come up with a amenable, good program that can work. Because that's what it takes. It takes 5 council members to work together, to talk and communicate with everyone, and come up with a good compromise. And that's what I believe we came up with. Thank you.
All right, here is the next question, and you will have 1 minute to answer this question, so just think about that. When the city is considering a major policy change that could significantly affect neighborhoods or land use, what role should the Planning Commission and other city commissions play before the issue reaches the council? Are there circumstances where you would send an issue back for additional public review rather than vote on it immediately? And you each have 1 minute, so let's start with you.
Thank you, great question. One of the things I've focused on for the last 5 years is more community engagement opportunities. The more commissions hear the items, to flesh out the details before it comes to us. All the pulling of the strings should happen at the commission level. Should be Parks and Rec, could be Public Works, could be Planning Commission. So then by the time it gets to us, the community has had several bites at the apple, several opportunities to engage and to provide their comment before it comes to us for any final action. And the more we discover that we're not doing that, then we discover that we have some issues with lack of coordination. Public Works isn't talking to Parks and Rec, and things are planned and they're not synchronized. And so we need to do a better job of doing that. It's imperative that we do that because, again, the more commission meetings we have, and again, not just meetings to have meetings, but meetings that make sense to provide opportunities for the community to get involved before it comes to City Council for a decision.
So I think each of the commissions has a very important role in city government. I'm really proud that in the school board we are very efficient with our time because we do our due diligence ahead of time and we use staff appropriately to answer questions up front before we get to the dais and try and figure out on the spot. The Planning Commission, the Public Works Commission, we have many commissioners here tonight, Parks and Rec, they all serve a really critical role of elevating those questions from the community on issues that need to be answered and understood and wrestled with. So the commissions have a very important role in the process. I think what I've watched with this council, especially over the past year, is how when they can't make a decision, they end up wasting taxpayer dollars and taxpayer time by sending the issue back to a commission when they refuse to take a vote. Whether it was Bark for the Park, the Nike Half Marathon, or short-term rentals where they just completely skipped the commission process, they use commissions as a way to delay and not take a stand on things and leave things out to dry.
Well, it's an interesting trade-off. We're using our commissions, or are we not? I think we're using them very well now. I served on several commissions in my past. I know what it's like. They're hard-working volunteers. We have several of them here in the audience here, and they do. They work hard, and we listen to them, and I think it's great. And there's no like, oh, we shouldn't send it back to a commission for review, or we should try to take direct action without it. There's a balance in all that. You know, with regards to short-term rentals, we couldn't wait on that. We waited for the legal decisions, the legal ramifications to end, and we took swift action when we need to. We're going to use our commissions. We continue to use them. I believe in using them. We use the advice of our volunteers, and they're so important because they are working everyday people in our community. And those are democratic values. That's what I stand for, and I serve as a Democratic in this council that ensures that we're using our residents, our working class people to formulate decisions that we need. Thank you.
So the commissions, the Planning Commission, Public Works, Parks and Rec, they can play a really important role in creating another venue, another forum to collect community input on important items facing the city. Now, at the end of the day, if our goal is to get people engaged, we have to do a better job at getting them to these commission meetings. People do not show up to these commission meetings. I can tell you that they barely show up to city council, and that's why I have been doing so much work over the past 2 years to bring people into these city council meetings and show them that these decisions really do affect the future of our community. I must say, though, we had this STR legal decision, what is it, in April? We've had 4 months to consider this legal ruling and gather public input. We could have sent it to a commission. We didn't. We throw it on the city council and we say, okay, maybe we'll have a robust debate. Maybe we'll be able to talk as a community about what are the priorities that we want. Do we want to prioritize the renters? Do we want to prioritize solving the fiscal deficit? Is there a way to do this in between? We didn't. We need to do better.
You will only have 30 seconds. We're getting short. Oh my gosh. But it is a 2-part yes or no question. So hopefully, yes. So the first question is, do you believe that any property owner or corporation should be able to convert a residence to a neighborhood hotel? And do you think the motion voted on last night would prevent that? So, if you'd like to start.
Can you say it one more time? That feels like a double negative.
Yeah, do you want me to start with the first question? So the first question is, do you believe that any property owner or corporation should be able to convert a residence to a neighborhood hotel? And the second question is, do you think the motion voted on last night would have prevented that from happening? Like, do you think that that wouldn't be allowed? That they would not be able to turn things into hotels?
Got it. Yes, property rights are a part of what we have. And the city council last night absolutely made it a free-for-all for anybody to turn any room or building in the city into a hotel. So they allowed that to happen. I think that property rights need to be balanced with public interest. We need to ensure that there are density caps. We need to ensure that there are buffers. We need to ensure that there are responsible homeowners that we can contact in the middle of the night. Stop.
The answer is no and no. Certainly, homeowners and homes should not be able to transfer to a hotel. It's obvious. But we took action expediently. We didn't have time to go to a planning commission. We took it minutes after we settled the court case. We could not have extended hearings prior to that. We had legal reasons for that, and then we took swift action to take that action. The rest is going to require 6 months, 9 months of Coastal Commission approval, and we'll get there, with it, and that's really what will happen. And we'll have those limitations in place.
Yeah, the answer is no. We should not be converting housing into hotels. And right now, no, it's not legal under state law to, say, evict a renter for the purpose of turning that into a short-term vacation rental. But you have other ways. You can do a gut renovation eviction. You can do an owner move-in eviction, and then wait 6 months and turn it out on Airbnb. That's legal right now. You can do that. I proposed 2 months ago, to agendize an item to prevent this with a waiting period for short-term rentals that have gone through a gut renovation eviction process. It wasn't even considered last night. It's on the agenda, not considered.
There are restrictions on what a resident can be converted to, and I do not believe a home should be converted into a hotel. And what happened last night absolutely permits that. It allows those folks who own property to convert them into hotels, unabated, no issues. They can kick out the folks who live there and start Airbnb today. Even actually some of the folks who voted who may have had a conflict of interest. So it was the wrong decision that was made last night. It was pretty clear.
From short-term rentals, which I know is a popular topic. So we're going to go to an even more popular topic, budgets. Hermosa Beach is facing a significant budget deficit with costs projected to increase. For example, the LA County beach maintenance and lifeguard expenses as well as many unfunded capital projects, including the pier and the maintenance yard. Balancing the budget will require hard decisions. What leadership qualities and ideas do you have to address these challenges? And you get 2 minutes to speak. So you could just solve the problem right now. Yep, go ahead. Okay, you're gonna go first.
Yeah, this is a defining crisis for our town. We have remaining from this council at least roughly $1.2 million structural deficit holdover from last year. We plugged it with reserves. We have coming at us potentially $4 or $5 million in county, fire, lifeguard, beach maintenance cost increases over the next 3 years as we renegotiate our contract. We have a city council that has proceeded with a complete renovation of our city yard, which is estimated to cost $20 million. If we bond that, it's going to be $1.25 million a year in debt service. We have not identified a cash flow stream for that, and that's not even getting to the Hermosa Beach Pier. We have huge problems, but we also have solutions. Like I said, I think that we can do a dedicated surcharge tax on the Airbnbs that are properly regulated here in Hermosa after going through a process to actually regulate them and tax them. I believe that we can look at other revenue opportunities like parking lot A and seeing where we can develop that parcel to generate additional revenue. I know that with technology, we can reduce some expenses on the administrative and permitting side at City Hall using AI for things like reviewing repeat permits from the same business year after year. I'm confident that we can generate savings from that and use that cash flow to plug the deficit. It takes leadership, though. I've served in government providing oversight with the appropriation committees over $1 billion of FDA spending, and I worked with Congress to streamline our FDA inspections, facilities footprints, to actually save taxpayers $20 million by closing down an unnecessary lab that we didn't need anymore. I think that experience, plus my understanding of finance from graduate school, and the work that I'm doing right now, the bill that we passed today out of the legislature, would reform the means that California gives homeowners financial assistance to do home hardening to protect their properties from wildfire, and makes it 12 times more efficient than existing grant programs. And I want to bring this leadership to the council on this really important issue.
I think, quite honestly, and I said this from the dais, I think we've failed. We have failed to come up with an adequate budget strategy. For years, for decades, those who have served know that Hermosa Beach has habitually kicked the budget can down the road. Those who remember, we were so desperate for revenue that we thought it was a good idea to have oil off our coast. That's how desperate we were for revenue. We needed money that badly. But we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything to fix that structural deficit. And now we're at that crossroad where we have to make tough decisions, where certain fees have to go up. And we've got to do some cutting. And we've got to be smart. Is there a better way to do things? Is there AI? Are we running, are we being efficient in terms of providing the maximum services for our community? Is the PD coverage correct or not correct? Where's the traffic enforcement? There are a lot of things that we can do. 410s, is that the best way to provide services for the city? Is that the most economic way to provide services for the city? We're going to be closed for 4 days for Labor Day weekend. Those who have carrying costs and try to get things done are not going to be able to get things done unless they come in on a Thursday or Tuesday. Those are things we have to look at. We've got labor negotiations coming up. We need data to support any real labor negotiation discussions. We need competent people in City Hall. We need competent people in the dais to really tackle this issue. It's going to take all of us pulling up our bootstraps together, the community and the businesses. We're not going to be able to fund some of the things that we've done for years. We've given a lot of giveaways, and we just can't do that. We can't continue to give the money away that we used to. People are going to have to pay a little more than they used to because we just don't have any choices right now.
It seems silly to say that the best way to not be in a financial crisis is to budget appropriately, but it's really true. Coming from the 13 years on the Hermosa Beach City School District, we're one of the smallest school districts in the state. And it's critical that we think about every dollar that is spent on behalf of our students. Those are public dollars, and we have to plan accordingly because there is no escape if we run out of money. Council has squandered one-time money to staff people. Most people tell you you don't buy people with one-time money because you end up being overstaffed. They didn't plan for maintenance and operations. Take a look at our city yard, take a look at our pier, take a look at any of the street issues that are happening right now. My experience with the school board is managing over $100 million in budget. We have maintained at 20% reserves, and this past spring when the county had teacher layoffs everywhere, we didn't lay off a single teacher due to budgets. We staffed and planned appropriately. There are several things that I really think are top of the ticket that we have to do. One is an independent audit. I don't trust our city to audit itself. This past budget crisis, budgeting cycle, they were told to take 10% off of districts, off of each division. I think we need to bring in a third party to really look at how we're staffed and how we plan. We also need to pass the sales tax. I'm a signatory of it. I was a signatory of it last time. We need to pass our financial burdens onto tourists, and when the county comes to collect for sales tax, we only keep 1% of that here in Hermosa Beach. We need to pass the sales tax so we keep more of our dollars going to things we can fund here in Hermosa. Lastly, in terms of labor contracts, our beaches, again, they bring in over $1 million visits a year, and they come for our beaches and lifestyle. Dean said that when the lifeguards contracts come up, we just shouldn't pay them. That's irresponsible. The lifeguards made over 4,000 saves this past year. Those are lives, those are people that need to be here, and we deserve to have a great relationship with our lifeguards, county fire, and police.
Well, I agree with a lot of what's been said here. There's been a lot of decisions. And what it takes is council members to talk to each other. It isn't one sound bite from one candidate or one member. It's the five of us working together collaboratively to find out where our revenue is going to come from. And that's exactly what we need to do. We don't need to be taxing the residents. We need to find ways to find visitors' fair share. That comes from hotel taxes, short-term rental taxes. Yes, we need to push back on county. There's no reason in the world why the county pays for complete lifeguard and beach maintenance in Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach, and they want to stick Hermosa Beach taxpayers for $3.5 million plus another $1.5 million to pay for lifeguards. That's a county, and we're going to get there. We're going to negotiate hard. We're not going to lay down. We're going to be hard with this. There's a lot of ways to bring in revenue, and this is what we need to do. We've improved our parking systems. We've brought in Park Mobile. We've brought revenue up with that, and we need to better utilize our city assets, and we can do this. And as far as the wasteful spending, yes, there was a lot going on. We cut a lot of it out. We had a deputy city manager working for almost the same money as a city manager. The new city manager came in immediately, eliminated that. We don't need that. We have a city manager now working what a city manager deputy did before. I mean, folks, you know, there was a lot of wasteful spending. We've cut back on that. And we've cut down on these bonus signings that we get when we recruit employees in. You're right. And we did it without any tax increase. And we can do it without a tax increase. There's a lot of work to bring in more revenue. It has to be a revenue based on visitors, based on property values, based on growing estimated land value, and bringing it in through visitors and negotiating properly with our other services so we can make this city better. It takes all of us to work together. Thank you.
Well, it's like you guys read my mind, because our next question is, are you in support of the sales tax ballot measure? And why or why not? And you guys will have 2 minutes. And Dean, if you'd like to go first.
Oh, well. I guess this is where I differ from the others up here. The sales tax is inherently a regressive tax. It taxes the working class people, the people at the lowest income levels that are spending their hard-working dollars going to restaurants, buying goods and services at our local stores. That's not the way to tax people to bring in revenue to a city. What it is we need to find ways to enhance revenue, and that's exactly what I need to do. You know, someone that buys an $80,000 car, it doesn't matter where they buy it, they got to pay $800 more in taxes now if this tax goes through. That's unheard of. Just so that we can have more money to spend, it only brings in $2 million. We've got $3.5 million to work on, and we got a lot of ways to bring in revenue. What we need to do is increase business, increase the business base, increase the land values by changing the uses of mixed-use housing. That type of tax revenue is where we really bring it in, and it doesn't tax the people, the residents. As a Democrat my whole life, I've pushed for this. This is absolutely the wrong way to tax, and the county is not going to take it. We could have passed a progressive, regressive tax plan to put in place in case the county does. The county's not going to do it. You think your board of supervisors is going to be reelected, or if they pass some tax that takes over and takes our minimal ability to increase tax? That's just not going to happen, folks. So, you know, it's a matter of taking this steady ship and moving it forward and finding the ways that we can bring revenue in and tighten our belts and live within our budgets. A tax increase that's then implemented for the rest of eternity, that's not going to help a future council and a future government. They're going to absorb it and we'll be right back in the same jam we've always been in before. So that's why I'm against that tax increase.
Okay. You guys might as well just.
I get to go again?
Yes, you get to go ahead. Yep, Maggie. Oh, yeah, either one of you. Someone answers.
Okay. I just want to. Okay, so.
It's 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, as I mentioned, this is the second budget cycle that or the second election cycle that I've been a part of the sales tax initiative. This isn't the first cycle that we've had a structural deficit. This is an ongoing problem. And it's really important that our council and our community come together to look at different ways to bring in money. We don't have hotels, we don't have harbors, we don't have headquarters, we don't have retail giants. What we have are our public assets here in town. And it's important that we look at ways to incentivize people to come here and spend their dollars here. So some of that also ties along to what we need to do with commercial development. Sales tax is definitely money we need to collect. I'm for it. We also need to really look at commercial development. The city, for whatever reason, is sitting on different assets, different parking lots, parking lot A, parking lot B, and we're not taking advantage of the fact that we could have an opportunity to develop those responsibly in the coastal corridor that allows for even greater tourism and even greater vibrancy in our downtown area. If we're able to do that, we could look at reallocating parking into different areas on Upper Pier Avenue or Upper PCH, and that would allow us then to create walking avenues that generates more commercial development throughout the Pier Avenue area. So it's the sales tax, but it's also an entire vision for Hermosa Beach that allows us to think about how we use our space. It also will have to encourage how we think about mobility in terms of better walking, better bike lanes, so it's safer for people to be out. We had yet another student hit by a car last Friday. So we need to think about how people are accessing our downtown in different commercial corridors. So a sales tax is part of it, and then, right? It is the first part of many steps in a conversation, which has to be all held together.
This is our third swing at the sales tax. We are $12 million behind where we could have been if it passed the first time. $6 million if it passed the second time. And all those that have been fighting and saying no sales tax, to include my colleague, to include one that is running, have yet to come up with a viable solution as to, okay, if no sales tax, then what? And when you talk to most rational people, they'll say, yeah, if I have to pay an extra half a penny for my $15 margarita at Palmilla, I'm okay with that. And I guarantee you, the guy who's dropping $80K for a car isn't worrying about $800 sales tax. And the example I like to use is Costco. There's a Costco in Torrance, and there's a Costco in Hawthorne. And who knew that they have two different sales taxes in Hawthorne and Torrance? And who makes the decision as to which Costco they're going to spend their $300, $400 a week? based on the sales tax. You don't. You go to the store you like, when you like, and you buy what you like, and we're fortunate not to have to worry about an extra half a cent. That half a cent means a lot of money to us because it comes directly into our coffers. For those that were opposed, and they fought it tooth and nail last time, and now the biggest opponent is now saying, yes, we got to pass this measure. That's $6 million later. And oh, by the way, it was 3/4 of a cent last time. Now this is a half a cent. So that's a lot less money. So the sales tax is important. I just want to talk about the deputy city manager position that was eliminated. Oh, by the way, that deputy city manager also was our grant writer, and she brought in millions of dollars to include $2.3 million for a year. So you can say, well, we got this, but at the end of the day, she was more than worth her value. I certainly agree with my neighbor here, Maggie, with regard to vision. You have to have a vision. We have to have a better bicycle infrastructure. We have to improve our walkable and outdoor experience in our city. So, thank you.
Thank you. This is an important question that ultimately I will cast one ballot on out of 8,000 or some odd voters in Hermosa Beach that are going to vote this fall. The residents will decide what we do with the sales tax, but what bothers me is when sitting councilmen say, well, we're just going to balance the budget, and we can make a plan, and we can do things to generate new revenue, and we can do things to cut costs. I sat in those budget hearings. I watched the council, ultimately after 6 hearings, accept staff's recommendation for their budget this year with essentially zero changes. Zero changes. Where is the plan to plug a $9 million long-term hole in the budget? Again, existing deficit, at least $1.25 million. The county fire contract, let's say conservatively, $4 million. City yard, $1.25 million a year. The pier, $2.5 million a year. $9 million hole right there. If we were to cut another $1 million out of the budget with AI and other cost reductions, which I will try to do, and to pass the sales tax, and to do parking lot A development, and do a dedicated short-term rental surcharge tax, that would net us at $7.75 million altogether. We would still be left with a $1.25 million annual operating deficit in the town of Hermosa Beach. We need to plan. This is why Councilman Francois' colleague on the council, Michael Keegan, not exactly a harsh opponent of Francois, said, and I quote, "Dean's plan is not a plan. It would bankrupt the city." That is not my words, that is Councilmember Keegan's words. So, my question is, if we don't want to pass the sales tax, which I don't want to pay more in sales tax at all, but I want a pier. I want the police to show up when they're called. I want fire to show up when it's called. I want public works to have a yard that they can actually work out of. And as much as I'm going to try to generate new revenue, not on the backs of taxpayers and cut costs, the math just doesn't math. We need more revenue.
All right, so we have one more question, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. So think about your questions. Okay, here's the final question from me this evening. And you'll have 1 minute to answer. What are your thoughts on Hermosa strategies to prevent water scarcity? And Ray, would like to
Prevent what?
water scarcity. You need about 1 minute.
That's certainly not what I was expecting. Water scarcity. Well, as a coastal commissioner, I'm certainly aware of a lot of the challenges we are facing as a coastal city. And part of that is rising seas. Part of that obviously is going to be the king tides that we're expecting. Desal is something that the Coastal Commission has looked at. A lot of cities are looking at to address the water issues that we are dealing with. Our friends to the west in Colorado want to give us less water. There are books being written now that the next wars are going to be fought over water and not oil. And so we as a state have got to take this seriously and figure out, okay, it's not going to magically just appear, and you have to plan now before it is a crisis. So there are a lot of, I think the Coastal Commission has approved 8 out of 7 desal permits that have been requested, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at, just not off our coast.
And if you want to go
I'll be perfectly frank, this isn't an area that I've seen council action. I'm not familiar with the contours of the city's authority and jurisdiction over local water conservation policy. I can tell you from my work in wildfire is one of the greatest threats to water scarcity in the United States. The ash, the runoff from wildfires that I've been working on reforming with comprehensive permitting reforms for prescribed fire, for instantaneous detection and suppression using new technologies. This is how we protect our large upstream sources of water. I'm open to working with our partners at the West Basin Municipal Water District on anything that they need from the city of Hermosa Beach to perform their functions effectively. I think that intergovernmental partnerships are going to be essential. And I'm open to learning a lot more about this issue and seeing what, if anything, the city of Hermosa Beach can do to be a good partner, a good neighbor, and good stewards of what's one of our most important resources.
Dean Patty.
Water scarcity is a problem, especially in this city. The more we develop, the more water we need. There's a lot of programs that this city actually can promote. Now, the West Basin Municipal Water District has grant programs for people to convert their lawns over to drought-resistant plants, utilizing less water. That's something that this city can do more to promote. Those are grant programs. I've been endorsed by Scott Houston in the assembly race statewide here, water district board member, and those are the type of things that we can work with. So, you know, desal isn't necessarily the answer. A lot of environmental groups are very much opposed to desal because it really creates a lot of problems with ocean life. I have been honored with the sole early endorsement of the Sierra Club and the League of Conservation Voters because of my work on the environment. And desal isn't necessarily the way to go. We can do some deep wells and other reclamation of water, and those kind of projects are what we do. Thank you.
So if it isn't clear, I'm a big fan of good governance, and one of the things about good governance is paying attention to the details. So when I look at how we're running Hermosa Beach right now, for some reason, somebody in the government decided to plant at the corner of 30th Street and Ardmore sod, grass, and roses. I love gardening. I also know that sod, grass, and roses take up a considerable amount of water. So when we look at choices that are going in as simply as what are we putting in the medians of our areas, that's a decision that has multiple ramifications. So it is that kind of attention to detail that I expect our city council and our city manager and our city government to think about when they're making these choices. We have two community champions in here who have done amazing work on native gardens. Jackie and Jim, they're sitting in the back. They have almost fully redesigned the back sand dune of Valley School Park in order to bring back the native life. We have lots of places where we have tried to take advantage of native coastal areas, and I think that's a great example, but water scarcity is real.
For all of you still here, thank you so much. So if anyone from the audience has a question, you do have to be a member to ask a question. Okay.
We have a dichotomy in that everybody's talking about we need more tourists. We need tourists, and not tax the locals. Well, if the tourists come, what part of the liquor tax goes away to the state? A bunch of it. What part of the sales tax is the only thing, this increase that would come to the city. A tourist coming here, buying a meal, is only generating that much tax. If we don't go up on that tax, what are they gonna, where are we gonna get money from tourists if not the sales tax? They don't pay, I mean, parking's parking, you know, that's local art tours, you know. The liquor tax goes away, right? Hotels, small, right? Small amount. That's not real money, guys. We gotta be talking about real money. Can't see the sales tax not being something we need, no matter how much we save on Monday through Friday instead of Monday to Thursday.
Was there a question you wanted? Okay, if someone, you guys have 1 minute if you want to say something.
Sure. No, I think you're spot on. That is a part of it should be part of the bigger picture. Tourists pay roughly 50% of our sales tax. What we don't generate sales tax from are all our service revenues. We don't, from nail salons and hair and car service. We get no sales tax from that. Gyms. So we need to look at, okay, where can we generate more tax? TOT, hotels. Certain cities have a higher TOT for the for the short-term rentals than they do for the hotels. That's an opportunity to generate additional revenue. So TOT and sales tax are the two biggest ones. I tried to get the TOT increase on this ballot, but was told by a couple of my colleagues it'd be too confusing, and for the life of me I couldn't understand that because the state's going to have 20 ballot measures that are really confusing. That yes means no and no means yes. So I think we missed an opportunity to potentially generate more revenue from the TOT in addition to the sales tax. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, it's the bed tax. So every hotel pays a bed tax.
Anyone else?
Thank you. Yes, the hotel tax is a great way to bring in more revenue. That would be 100% completely paid for by tourists. And that's something that Councilmember Jackson and myself agreed on. If we worked harder with our colleagues, we could have gotten more votes to get that on the ballot. We just didn't do it. We could have done that and a higher tax on short-term rentals. Those are the type of resources and revenue sources that we need to work on. That is not sales tax generated. So there's no definite proof that a sales tax is paid 50% by tourists. I mean, every product that gets delivered to your home in Hermosa Beach, you will pay a tax on. Every automobile, no matter where you pay it, you will pay the tax on. So, a sales tax is inherently taxing the working class, the residents, and there's a lot of ways to bring in taxes otherwise. So I mentioned the way tourists can pay. We can increase property values by increasing them to allow more housing and mixed uses. That's just an example of other ways we can bring in that tax base to bring more revenue in, not sales tax generated.
The only things that I would add here is that the sales tax ballot measure would bring in $2 million a year. The TOT increase that they had on the council agenda would have generated, I think, $350,000 or $400,000 a year. They're not the same in terms of scale. The reason why I've been repeatedly coming back to a short-term rental surcharge tax is because we can generate additional revenue on specifically the properties where these guys have already been violating the city ordinance and proceeding to operate these rentals. I don't think they'll be deterred by a couple extra basis points on top. And by the way, we do have hotels in Hermosa Beach. Let's make sure that they stay competitive. We don't want to have our short-term rentals taking away from the business of our awesome hotel operators here in Hermosa Beach. We'd be robbing Peter to pay Paul.
All right. Anyone else have a question? And then.
And please remember, in the form of a question, and keep your question short.
Hi, my name is Kevin Beatty, and I'm the president of Beach City's Young Democrats. So for one of our next meetings, we're going to be learning about how to interpret political language and talk to politicians. And one of the issues that our members care about most is the sort of recent attacks against vulnerable communities. I'm talking about ICE raids, I'm talking about all of the payments people have been getting. So my question, our question for you all, is more just what protections do you plan to put in place to keep these communities safe? And also, my members will be watching this, so if there's anything you want to say to them, feel free.
I just want to say kudos to you for getting involved at such a young age.
Good to see you. Obviously, we like younger people getting involved in politics. Hermosa Beach is a very welcoming town. very welcoming town, and we need to keep it that way. We open our arms to people from all over the world. This is not a hateful community by and large, but any sort of hateful speech and hate crimes must be vigorously prosecuted. And we need to make sure that our police department has the resources to do so. But we also just need to be good stewards of the culture that we've inherited on being open. You know, I know that there are some folks in the community that really want to change our lifeguard tower, Pride Tower, back to a blue tower. And to me, we have so many blue towers, and this is a group that comes together every year, and more than that, every month, to celebrate their diversity at our beach. And that's special, and let's keep that special for folks now in the
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being involved. Our state senator started an internship program for young high school kids as a result of one of his meetings here. So please look to stay engaged. I think it's fantastic. You know, it's unfortunate that what we're seeing at the local level is what we're seeing at the national level. I think a lot of that culture war has filtered down into our best little beach city. We're seeing division over cooperation. We're seeing personal attacks over serious debate, outrage over facts, and treatment of public servants and political opponents as enemies. And those that are fearing deportation and raids and loss of constitutional rights, it's important that we stand up and that we speak up for those who have no voice. And so I appreciate you being a voice for those who can't speak for themselves. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for the question. I think what I base today's judgment on is my experience first as a Peace Corps volunteer and then as a classroom teacher in urban communities across the world, and learning how to live with people in every walk of life, right? You don't have a choice of who gets to be your neighbor, and so how you build bridges with your neighbor is an essential part of how we build better communities. Those experiences I brought with me to the school board. I'm really proud of the inclusive work that we've done there. We know that an inclusive classroom leads to better outcomes for academics and social emotional well-being for students, and so that inclusion is important. I have followed in the footsteps of former Mayor Hildy Stern, future Mayor Nina Tarnay here on the South Bay Community Coalition Against Hate, Holly Mitchell, Supervisor Holly Mitchell's commission, to address the really scary rates of anti-Semitism and API hate that's happening in the community, and that was a South Bay response at large among all the elected officials. Just this month, I was able to get past HR 124, which was supporting DACA educators.
Thank you for the question. I was part of the Young Democrats in the Jimmy Carter campaign. So I'll tell you, those Young Democratic clubs are great the way they foster and community with people. Our police department does not work in cooperation with ICE agents. I think that we need to reduce the fear that anyone has. And hate speech is something that is not tolerated. When I was mayor, I made sure that people were cut off. We didn't tolerate that. I continued to call people out of order, and really, I ran a tight ship. Go back and watch the tapes when I was mayor. You'll see how it was run. We have to live by example. If we talk about not tolerating hate, we need to make sure we're not doing it ourselves. And that's really important as political leaders, especially leaders in the Democratic Party. I was an EEO investigator as a federal employee. I've seen discrimination in the workforce. I've seen sexual harassment firsthand. I know what it's like, and we don't need that. We shouldn't tolerate it, and that's really important as a Democratic principle as an elected official. Thank you.
All right, our last question of the evening, and then you guys will each get 1 minute for a closing statement.
It was just, just a really simple question. So are there any types of items that the sales tax doesn't include? Or that are exempt from being taxed, sorry.
Medicine and food.
Medicine and food is what the answer is according to these gentlemen.
Thank you.
Restaurants.
And groceries.
So groceries and medications are not taxed.
Groceries and medications.
Dog food is. Service industries pay no tax. When you get your $200, or let's say Nina gets her $200 hair. Got it. There's no sales tax, but the $20 conditioner is taxed.
No, and I think that's great, really important for people to know.
Right.
Just because it's, when you're talking about sales tax, it's not saying you're trying to tax everything, but when you're talking about the fact that these really core essential items are excluded from this sales tax, I don't see why people wouldn't support it. But that's just
Also, I'd like to know where you get $20 conditioner, please.
Mine's $2.99.
Alrighty, so we are coming to the end of our evening. Thank you all for still being here. So we will now proceed to candidate. 1 minute for a closing statement, and then this portion of the night will be done. So Maggie, if you would like to start, I know, I'm so sorry.
We're opening and closing.
I know. So we're gonna start this way, and again, thank you all for participating in the democratic process.
Thank you. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Thank you again, everyone. So again, I'm running for several reasons. One, I have deep roots, and I really believe that I understand multi-generational approaches to Hermosa Beach's problems. I have a proven track record of over 13 years of public governance, and I have looked on how to get to yes in every way that we can with our students and our families. My issues are common sense governance. This council has ruled by chaos and lack of planning and lack of vision and lack of strategic planning. I'd like us to be proactive about our problems before they materialize, and I'm very concerned about how we protect our community. This body has endorsed me every time I run for school board. I was proud to actually be in Michael Keegan's kitchen when we did that in 2013, and I hope to get your endorsement again today. For me, being a Democrat means advocating for inclusion, expanding opportunity, and serving the public good. I've served the public good through my teaching in the Peace Corps, my urban classrooms, and then defending public education and equity across California. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'll start off where I left off at the opening statement. 4 years ago, I was elected. I was the only Democratic endorsed candidate, and I was the only Democrat elected, 3 seats. I have been a lifetime Democrat for half a century, and I've been through a lot. I know a lot about the Democratic Party, about its values, and I stand highly for them. Never been a member of another party, never been a declined state. This campaign has been about 3 things. Housing, affordable housing, parking, ensuring that residents are not affected, the working class people aren't affected. We have safety and coastal protection, which I've got a history of protecting our environment in Hermosa Beach, our coastal resources. That's really important, and that's why I've got the sole endorsement, early endorsement of the Sierra Club and the League of California Voters. So, my time's up already? My goodness gracious. Okay, anyway, vote for me. DeanForCouncil.com is my website if you need any more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it up for our host this evening. Thank you all for being here. It has truly been an honor. You know, when I ran for the first time in 21, I was blown away by the community support. And I'll never forget, on election night, I said, regardless of the vote tally, we've won. We've won with the way this community embraced us, the way they rallied around our campaign and our family as we were relatively new to the community. It has been an honor of a lifetime for me to represent this city. Public servant for over 40 years, a regional leader, a state leader on the California Coastal Commission. I'm not going to go through my resume, but if you read it, it's true. It's not embellished. It is true. What I've written is what I've done. Hermosa's at a pivotal moment right now. We need experienced, competent leadership focused on fiscal responsibility, public safety, smart and measured growth, protecting our community character. I've been endorsed by Ben Allen, Ted Lieu, supervisors, and my time is up.
Well, I gotta say, it's been fun on this side of the stage, on the moderation side. She's done a great job. It's awesome. It's awesome running for local office in your hometown. I definitely don't think that any of my classmates growing up would have put me in the yearbook as most likely to be elected city council. I grew up here with a single mom. My father was incarcerated when I was a kid here. I had a lot of challenges. I actually dropped out of high school. But I pulled myself up, went through El Camino, and have found a passion for public service and for helping other people. And in this community, I think it's really important for people that have that experience that you can only get as a kid growing up here and seeing the warmth and the love and support that this community can give, and then applying some skills that you've learned along the way in government to the challenges that we face today. And so you don't get to pick your colleagues in politics, but I can tell you that all of the people in this room, whoever we elect, I'm going to work with them to move the city's business forward, and I'd be honored to earn your endorsement. Thank you.
Brings this debate to a close. Anne, as we'd like to continue the rest of the meeting, but also just a reminder, you will get this in your email inboxes tomorrow at 7 a.m. Please check your spam before you email her. And also, if anyone would like to volunteer to help Anne and the rest of the committee plan things, please reach out to her. Otherwise, I'll turn it over. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne.